Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere sisters, the Akwath. And Shalom to all the sincere believers of the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. Now this lesson is going to be an Iran war update. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts. The Lord's will, you're edified. It says, as Iran war rages on and oil prices rise, Trump says U.S. hasn't even started destroying what's left. It says President Trump warned late Thursday the U.S. hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran and previewed that strikes on bridges and power plants could be next. A day earlier, the president asserted in a prime-time speech that the U.S.'s objectives in the Iran war are nearly met and said Iran's military capabilities have been effectively decimated. Which he's been saying that for a while now, and yet the war is still going. But he offered few new details on how the war might wrap up or whether the U.S. is planning to force open the Strait of Hormuz, instead vowing to carry out 2 or 3 more weeks of extremely hard strikes. Investors took little heart in Mr. Trump's remarks. Oil prices surged on Thursday, and U.S. gas prices are averaging over $4 a gallon, hitting motorists, delivery drivers, and farmers hard. Analysts say groceries could be next. Iran has threatened more destructive, retaliatory attacks to come. Yeah, so, see, Trump is sitting here lying, as he always does, telling people, oh yeah, the war is going great, we're winning the war, we're decimating Iran, we're destroying their military capabilities, we've killed all their leaders, just talking a whole bunch of nonsense. Meanwhile, a bunch of U.S. soldiers are getting killed, U.S. warships are getting damaged in these attacks from Iran, like billion-dollar weapon systems are getting destroyed. Billion-dollar U.S. weapon systems are being destroyed by Iran. Like, this war is not going in the favor of the U.S. But, Esau, the so-called white man, he's gonna lie. Because, as I've said many times before, there's a lot of people here in the U.S. and in other parts of the world who are extremely pissed off that this war is even a thing. Because it's an illegal war. It was never supposed to happen. Iran was at the table having peace talks with the U.S. before Israel and the U.S. attacked them. That's why it says here, Iran has threatened more destructive, retaliatory attacks to come. Which means they're retaliating. They're defending themselves. They're fighting back against somebody who attacked them first. And so many people, including the brothers, the men of the Lord, have said that in the grand scheme of things, we're not on the side of Iran either because, they're heathens. They're our enemy as well. The ones of them that actually are heathens. There are some Israelites scattered amongst them, But in this regard, in regards to this war, a lot of people are on the side of Iran for the simple fact that this is an illegal war and Iran is merely defending themselves against the U.S. Here it is, the U.S. and Israel are trying to paint Iran to be the bad guys and the monsters when Iran is merely defending themselves. People want to sit here and say, oh, those Iranians, they kill women over there and, they oppress their own people. And as so many other people have said or mentioned, they're like, oh, so the U.S. doesn't, or Israel doesn't oppress their own people. The U.S. and Israel are the two biggest oppressors on this planet. These Edomites, these so-called white people, they're the biggest oppressors of any nation. But they always projecting their wickedness onto other people. Because they're trying to paint themselves as all holy and righteous when they're the wicked. The so-called white man, the so-called white people in general are the wicked. And the Lord hates them, and he's going to destroy them. But, this war that Esau started, well, Amalek really, which is those Israelis, they're really the ones who started this war. They just dragged America into it. And as a result of this illegal war, gas prices are going up, which, like it says here, U.S. gas prices are averaging over $4 a gallon, hitting motorists, delivery drivers, and farmers hard. It says analysts say groceries could be next, and groceries will be next. The price of everything is going to continue to go up. Gas, groceries, people's rent, people's bills, everything is going to just go up. And because people are not getting paid enough to match the cost of living, people are going to start resorting to just taking what they need and taking what they want, which we don't condone that, obviously, but we understand that for a lot of people, it's going to be some desperate times call for desperate measures. And majority of these people out here are carnal, and they don't believe that the Lord is going to provide for them. So when things get difficult or get more difficult, they're going to resort to, stealing and doing things that they should not be doing, because they're going to see that as their only option. So things are about to get very, very gritty out here. And these Edomites, like Trump and Netanyahu, they know what's about to happen. They know things are about to get a lot worse, but they don't care, because the Lord is putting the Spirit on them to do what he wants them to do. Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And that's right. So basically, a lot of people are looking at Trump and they're like, he could easily just back out of this war. He could acknowledge that this war is an illegal war and it was not supposed to happen, and that the U.S. has committed war crimes being, involved in this war. But instead of doing that, the Lord has it in Trump's heart to keep going with this war, to keep sending in troops, to keep striking Iran, with missiles, to keep getting on TV and lying to people. On one hand, he's talking about that, they're just going to keep hitting Iran hard with these strikes. But then on the other hand, he's talking about how, that that the war is almost over. And then on the other hand, he's talking about how Iran is saying that they want a ceasefire and they want a peace deal. And then the Iranians, their leadership is like, we never said that. Because those Iranians, they're in it now. This war. They're not running. They're going to keep going as long as they can. And they've planned this out. They know exactly what they're doing. The US and Israel really thought they were just going to waltz up into Iran and, wipe them out. And it was just going to be a cakewalk. And it's turned into anything and everything except for that. See, ultimately, the Heavenly Father wants this war to keep going. So it will keep going. And the more the US and Israel attack Iran, the more Iran is going to fire back. And the more extreme measures that the US uses on Iran, the more Iran is going to up the ante and, use their own form of extreme measures. And if the US pushes it too far, China and Russia will get involved. And that's a level of smoke that the US does not want. But the Lord wants it. Because like it says in Exodus 15:3, the Lord is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. The Lord wants this war to escalate. Because when World War III does go full blown and turn into a full-fledged world war, those nukes are going to fly. And in the end, America and Israel are going to get nuked right off the face of the earth. The only difference is that because Israel is the Lord's chosen land, it's his favorite land on the earth, it's going to get rebuilt by these heathens. But America is never going to be rebuilt. America is going to get wiped off the face of the earth. And it's going to be used as an example of what you're not supposed to do. Because America is by far the most wicked place on the planet. Proverbs 20:24. Man's goings are of the Lord Yahweh. How can a man then understand his own way? And that's right. So Trump does not have free will. He's not doing this because he wants to do this. He's doing this because that's the spirit that the Lord has put on him. The Lord is using Trump to lead America right to its own destruction. This war is just going to keep going. There's not going to be any peace. There's not going to be any ceasefire. It's just going to keep escalating because this is what the Lord wants. And there's nothing anybody can do against the will of the Lord. Once the Lord sets something in motion, it's going to keep going until the Lord wants it to stop. And we can already see the domino effect of chaos happening from this war. The economic effects that are happening. And those economic effects are just going to get worse and worse. And more people who are going to suffer from this are going to lash out. Because majority of people, not just here in the US, but in the world in general, never wanted this war to happen. And now the world is stuck in chaos because Israel and the US decided to start an illegal war with Iran. And now the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, so oil is not getting through there. So gas prices are going up. And like it said in the article, farmers and delivery drivers, it's getting a lot more difficult for them to do what they need to do because they don't have the fuel. This is going to put a major hit on a lot of different transportation, trucks, buses, planes, ships, anything that requires oil to move around. This war and the Strait of Hormuz being shut down, it's going to just continue to basically strangle, societies. And there's nobody to blame except for the so-called white man. Amalek, first and foremost, being the chief of the Edomites, which would be those so-called Jews in the land of Israel. And then Esau over here, namely Donald Trump, because he's the quote-unquote leader. He's the president. So 2 Edomites are to blame for all the chaos that is currently happening right now. And everybody knows it. And most people are calling it out. And like I said, things are going to just get more and more out of hand. People are going to start going out into the streets. And these protests are going to start turning into riots. Because people can't afford to live. Like I said, in the mind of these carnal people, we're entering into a time of, desperate times call for desperate measures. People are going to start resorting to doing things that they would previously have not even considered doing, all because they need money. They need to be able to pay their bills and take care of their family. And if the government is not going to help them, then they're going to take it by force. So, for all you sincere brothers and sisters out there, just stay circumspect, keep your head on a swivel, continue to watch the news, and definitely stay prayed up because things are about to hit the fan out here. More so than they already have. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakudash, the Wadi Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere sisters, the Aqua, and Shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, Shalom.